Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Lore World Canon Cast, my little podcast where I discuss lore and canon-related topics from the Jurassic franchise. Tonight, I want to talk about the 10th anniversary of Jurassic World and a particular subject about Jurassic World, an opinion or a statement that is often thrown around about Jurassic World, which I think is incorrect. And I want to set the record straight, and it is to do with the lore. But we'll get on to that in a minute. I just want to reflect on the fact that it's been 10 years since Jurassic World was released, which is crazy. Now, time obviously is not actually going quicker, but it feels like it is for Jurassic fans, because for those that grew up in the era between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World, it felt like an eternity to wait, 14 years for Jurassic Park 4 to actually come out, and the anticipation for that movie was insane. And to think that in about 4 years' time we have already crossed that same amount of time again since the release of Jurassic World it seems crazy, but it will feel like it's gone quicker, because since Jurassic World's release, the franchise has been rejuvenated and reshaped into this monumental tentpole franchise, even bigger than it was during the 90s with the release of Jurassic Park and The Lost World. Now, obviously, Jurassic Park was culturally more significant in its impact, and we're still feeling the effects of that to this day. There's actually quite an interesting documentary on YouTube if you look it up. What's that called again? I'm just going to look it up quickly. It's all about the relationship. It's called, like, if you look up Jurassic Park, I'm just going to type it in now myself. Jurassic Park Doomsday. I found it quite interesting. If you look up The Digital Doomsday of Jurassic Park, it's a documentary by Artur. I don't know much about Artur, but this was a pretty decent documentary cataloguing the impact that Jurassic Park had on the world of digital effects and AI, and how Jurassic Park in itself almost embodies the very thematic narrative that the dinosaurs do in its very own story, but in reality. So Jurassic Park is like our dinosaur in a way, and the chaos it brought into the world, which could not be controlled. Anyway, it's a very interesting documentary. But the point is that even with Jurassic Park's massive success and The Lost World's really big success, I think it became like the third highest grossing movie of all time when it came out. It was insane, an insane Goliath of a movie at the time. And I think a lot of people forget that. It was the third or fifth highest grossing movie of all time, The Lost World, before like Titanic came out and then all these subsequent superhero movies. But even accounting for all that, since Jurassic World's release in 2015, the franchise has never been this big. It's insane how popular the franchise is. I don't know where I was going. I've sort of lost my train of thought, but yeah, to think we had a film come out, what was it, like every 3 or 4 years since Jurassic World, that has made time speed up for fans, because, you know, we've got new films coming out. We're distracted. We're not waiting for the next chapter to arrive. That was my point. Because the franchise has gotten so successful, and even after, you know, Dominion finishes, and us fans, we think, you know, they're toting it as the end of the Jurassic era, or the end of an era. They never did say that it was the end of the franchise. I do keep hearing people say, like, oh, they kept marketing it as like the end of the franchise. It's like, no, they didn't. They marketed it as the end of an era using those words. The end, the conclusion to the Jurassic era, that was it. Which meant like Alan Grant and Ellie, and I guess Owen and Claire, and, you know, Dodson and Nedry and all that sort of stuff. Closing off all that loop. and finishing it up. But even when the Jurassic World visual history book came out, there was a little chapter right at the end where Frank Marshall was saying that they were thinking about, they want to continue it on and stuff. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, we never thought even then. After that, we all thought there would be a little bit of a break, longer than 3 years. But here we are with the release of Rebirth. How many days away is it now? It's well under a month. When does Rebirth come out? Just under 4 weeks. That's crazy. I'm so excited for it. I've kind of taken a step back off social media, because spoilers are just everywhere. I saw there was I was on Twitter a few days, must have been a week ago or so now, maybe longer, and there was some clip released of the behind the scenes or something. I didn't look at it, but I just saw a very brief glimpse of something to do with the river raft sequence with the Tyrannosaur. And a clip started playing of a shot I hadn't seen before, and I just went, no, that's it, I'm off. I'm getting out of here. So I just left Twitter. I put a post out saying I'll come back once I've seen Rebirth. I did pop back in very briefly to post a Jurassic June video just to say Happy Jurassic June to everyone. But yeah, and I have made a promise to someone about something which I can't mention, which I will pop back into Twitter just to post, but I won't go on Twitter at all. It's absolute cesspit. I've been hearing people have been saying it's they're glad that they've done the same sort of thing and dropped out of Twitter, because it's insane how much fans share every single piece of official marketing, and it's basically like a circle jerk of diehard fans and excited fans. I'm not blaming them for being excited, but it's like this circle jerk of fans who are super excited and Universal getting their dopamine hits and clicks and revenue clicks and all that sort of shit. And it's just when they don't need to do that at all online. Everyone online knows Jurassic World Rebirth's coming out. They should really be hitting up the market of the general audiences more. Out there in the world, with gimmicks rather than releasing behind the scenes features before the film's even out. I mean, I didn't like that when they did it with Fallen Kingdom, as much as I like watching those features and stuff now after the film. But I remember back then, being annoyed because I knew through our work what was going to happen in the movie, and I was really excited for people to be surprised by it. But they were just showing everything, especially the Endoraptor. It was they had this whole bloody behind the scenes feature about how they made the Endoraptor animatronic, and it's part of the magic of Jurassic Park and the Lost World, and even Jurassic Park 3 back in the day. And I would say this actually, and Jurassic World, funnily enough, they didn't release. I think Jurassic World may have released one behind the scenes feature before, and maybe I'm speaking out my ass because maybe back in the day there was some Jurassic Park 3, I don't know, CD-ROM thing, and you get some behind the scenes featurette or something. I don't know, there might be something like that, but my broader point is that, especially with Jurassic Park and the Lost World, you didn't know the magic behind the films until after you'd seen the film, so at least you'd gone on the adventure with the characters and experienced it as best you could in the shoes of the characters, and going along for the emotional ride without thinking about how, this is a movie and this is a special effect and stuff, and I know how they did that effect because they revealed it in a behind the scenes feature before I saw the film. It's all that shit needs to go. Release all that after the film. That's how you keep the momentum going with fans, is you don't I don't know, what was it, climax before the event. Right? You don't I don't know what they're thinking. It's ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, so Jurassic World has turned 10, which is madness. And 10 years later, I really want to watch the film. I haven't watched it yet. for its 10th anniversary. I think I watched it earlier this year at some point, but I can't really remember because I think I was looking after the baby, so I was a bit distracted. But I need to sit down and probably watch it again. It hasn't been too long. I remember a lot of the film, but I think my initial opinion of Jurassic World still stands for me. It does feel like when you watch the films in order, Jurassic Park to Lost World to Jurassic Park 3 and then Jurassic World, I really do feel like Jurassic World feels, with its atmosphere and its tone, feels like a combination, a blend, a hybrid, as it were, of Jurassic Park, The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, as like a kind of celebration of those 3 films that came before. I feel like, and I could be talking out my butt here, but I get the sense that Colin and the filmmakers had it in their head that they wanted to sort of tonally take bits from each of those 3 previous films and then infuse it into this one to then kick off the new era of movies. And I mean, that's the sense I got from it. On one hand you've got like the InGen Mercs being taken out by the raptors at night, which feels very much like the long grass sequence in The Lost World. And then you got like Claire standing on the cliff tops going, Zach, Gray, and Owen's like, shh, don't do that. And it's kind of like Jurassic Park 3 with Amanda Kirby, and then you've got the whole like Wu and Masrani discussion in their office about what's been going on with the Indominus, which is very much like Jurassic Park and the dinner scene kind of debate and all that. It's like a blend of all 3 films, and in doing so it creates its own sort of new identity. And I really appreciate that back when I first saw it, and I still do to this day. And I have to give a shout out, just as a little side note. It's just popped into my head and I just want to get it out now while it's in my head. Chad Randall, who plays the InGen Merc, who dies in who was in the Lost World and then dies in Jurassic World, gets eaten by Delta. You're a legend, and I love that little character. He's a stunt actor, so whether it was actually intentional, I don't know. But he plays an InGen Merc in both. So, and I like to think that on set he talked to the crew about how he was in the Lost World. So I love that little detail, and I really think that helps bring it together even more. Because there's a lot of people out there who think the Jurassic World is very disconnected from the other 3 movies, but I don't see it. I see it as a continuation. It's not a perfect movie, obviously. There's still things I would have done differently if I was behind the camera. I think I'd make it more apparent that Gray is autistic or something like that, because he does have lines of dialogue that you're like, what are you talking about? But I really like his character, and but I think they kind of went for an approach with him of like, let's just not focus on it and just let him be. But I kind of feel like there could have been a line of dialogue from Zach or something to Claire about it, about how he's like progressing or something. And obviously with Zara's death, I kind of feel like we needed a moment where Claire reflected on the fact that her childminder was eaten, and the boys had a moment where they reflected on what they saw. But and the T-Rex shot at the end. I love the design of the T-Rex in the film. I think it's really good. But there's that certain shot of the T-Rex right at the end where you're like, the camera angle is a bit off with it. I think that the Rex looks good in terms of design, but tweak that camera shot. Because in the very next shot, and fans out there will know what I'm talking about, kind of skirting around the actual meaning of what I'm talking about. I'm losing words now. But if their very next shot, it looks great, so they could have just changed the camera angle. But anyway, Jurassic World is a lot of fun, and that's the big thing about it. It's like, it's bombastic, it's in your face, it's very subtle in the story it's telling. Now, I say that, very subtle in the story it's telling, and that's what's leading me onto what I'm going to talk about in terms of the lore tonight. 1 second. I'm just going to crack open a beer. What have I got tonight? Double Ghost IPA, Adnam Southwold. It's a local brew. Let's give it a little whirl. Oh, that is lovely. Double Ghost IPA. It's got a lovely picture of a ghost ship being struck by lightning in the open ocean. Subtle storytelling in Jurassic World. It does exist. And so the subject that I want to sort of discuss right now is all about this line of dialogue from Claire in Jurassic World, which I'm going to pull up now, where she said, let's be honest, no one is impressed by a dinosaur anymore. 20 years ago, de-extinction was right up there with magic. These days, kids look at a stegosaurus like an elephant from the city zoo. Now this line, nobody is impressed by a dinosaur anymore, was in part the catalyst for Colin's story to do with Jurassic World, because him and Spielberg were talking, and I'm going to be getting some of these facts a bit wrong because I'm just pulling from memory here, but I swear it was that they pitched this image of a kid with his back turned to a T-Rex in a paddock, and he's just looking at his mobile phone, which would eventually make it into the film with Zach. This image and this line of dialogue sort of permeated the zeitgeist in such a way that people actually believe that the film Jurassic World was saying that people are bored of dinosaurs. Now, there's two caveats to this. One, I'll discuss in a minute, which is about, the internal lore of Jurassic. The other one is that outside of the film, the sort of meta narrative of that line comes from the fact that there was a 14 year break where there was no Jurassic and everyone was obsessed with superhero movies. So Claire in a meta way is talking about the audience in the real world watching it, and it's like, why have you come back to watch a Jurassic movie? What makes dinosaurs more interesting after you've watched a film like Pacific Rim, which has giant monsters and giant robots duking it out in neon cities, or you watched the Avengers, you watched all these superheroes battle giant alien worms in New York City and all this sort of stuff, and it's like, why does the little T-Rex hold any water to this? So there's that aspect to it. So it's kind of a meta-narrative on the real world audience. In the lore, I hear a lot of people discuss it as in Claire's right, no one's impressed by a dinosaur anymore, which is wrong. That's wrong. So to address this, I need to read the entire quote from Claire, which says, "While year over year revenue continues to climb, operating costs are higher than ever. Our shareholders have been patient, but let's be honest, no one is impressed by a dinosaur anymore. 20 years ago, de-extinction was right up there with magic. These days, kids look at a stegosaurus like an elephant at the city zoo." And then she says, "But consumers want them bigger, louder, and more teeth." So the context is key here, because without it, yes, Claire's saying no one's impressed by a dinosaur anymore. Okay, on the face of it, all right, that's a statement. Add some context to it. She's walking through a very busy lab full of happy children and families watching the science of Jurassic World. Dinosaurs coming out of eggs, all that sort of stuff. The science, the magic of Jurassic. She says at the beginning of the sentence that their revenue is going up. Now, operating costs are going higher, but that doesn't mean people are bored of dinosaurs. It means, if anything, people are coming to see dinosaurs more. Then there's a line later on when she's in the helicopter with Masrani. And before I get to that, I just want to mention that the the line she says, no one's impressed by a dinosaur anymore. She's in the middle of a sales pitch to investors who want to sponsor the Indominus Rex. Basically, they're looking for a new dinosaur to sponsor, and so she's giving them a sales pitch, and it's a hollow sales pitch. So it's bullshit. It's basically they've listened to focus groups. The focus groups have said, we want something a bit different, bigger, louder, more teeth, all this sort of stuff. And a focus group isn't, the entire crowd. As she says later on when she's in the helicopter with Masrani, she says, he asks, how's my park doing? Great. We're up 2.5% over last year. A bit lower than our initial projection. Okay, so firstly, they are above where above the previous year, but they're a bit lower than their predictions or their projections. So they wanted more. They got more than they did last time, but they still want more. So it's greed. And then he says, no. How's it doing? Are the guests having fun? Are the animals enjoying life? Claire says, well, guest satisfaction is steady in the low 90s. Guest satisfaction is steady in the low 90s. So that means the guests are having a good time. And it's plateaued at the low 90s, which is insanely good. Like, you're talking, let's say if this was out of 10, the guests are all marking it around 9.1, 9.2, maybe even 9.3 out of 10 in terms of how satisfied they are with the park, which is really, really good. Now, the clues to why they make the Indominus is because they're greedy. One, they have projections that are higher than the 2.5, which was over the year before. They want to meet those. And they don't like the guest satisfaction is steady. They want it to go up. They don't like the idea of it being steady, like plateauing. It went up. They want it to keep going up. And even though their revenue costs are going up, they're listening to focus groups. So basically, it's overreach. Everyone is still impressed by a dinosaur, except for people like Zach, who then gets won around in the film, by the way. He eventually comes to and realizes, hey, these dinosaurs are pretty awesome. When he sees the Mosasaurus, that's like the first trick. And then when he goes through the Gyratosaur Valley with with Gray, and then because he knows Gray's upset, he goes, let's go see some more dinosaurs. He gets won over at that point, and that's what eventually leads him to butt into the Indominus, and they go on that adventure. But the shot of him on his phone in front of the T-Rex, there's that shot from the movie, and it's like there are so many people behind Zach loving the fact that the T-Rex is there, and everyone in the park looks like they're having the best fun ever. And so the reason the Indominus is created is not because people are actually bored of dinosaurs. It's because they're just greedy and they're just trying to get as much as they can, trying to squeeze everything. And they stepped over the line, and they went too far, and that's the point the film's trying to make. So this misconception that I hear a lot of fans tote about the lore of Jurassic World being that, the film was saying that people are bored of dinosaurs. It's like, no. No, it wasn't. It was saying the complete opposite. It was saying people aren't bored of dinosaurs. And if you think that they're bored of dinosaurs, then you lead to the Indominus Rex and the downfall of the park. It's overreach. So there's my little lore discussion for this evening. I hope you enjoyed that. Leave a comment underneath if you have any thoughts on that, any further thoughts. I do find it interesting that, there's this rumour going around with Rebirth that they are doing a sort of similar thing. And this is why it keeps coming up, and I thought, on the 10th anniversary I'll address it. But the Rebirth is like, people are bored of dinosaurs again. That's why I'm hearing rumours. That's why Dr. Henry Loomis's museum has had was it 4 or 5 visitors or something I heard along the grapevine, and that's why they're like closing down because people are bored of dinosaurs. And it's like, let's wait for the full context of the movie first. I have a feeling, because there's this running narrative in the Jurassic movies. You know, in the first film, Grant's dig site is getting funded by Hammond. Jurassic Park 3, they mention that he's only got a few weeks before they have to pack everything up because the funding's pretty much going dry for paleontology, since people know that there's dinosaurs out on an island. It's sort of insinuating that, you know, and Billy spent loads of his money on that 3D printer because he was like, we've got to pack up in 6 weeks, and he's like, free, I had to buy something or something like that. And you know, and then you cut to Jurassic World Dominion, and you know, it's revealed that the funding has completely dried up for paleontology, and it's actually tourists who are funding Grant's dig site. So it's like public support. You know, people who do care about the real paleontology have funded Alan Grant's dig site. So when you come to Rebirth, you know, museums are closing down, and I think it's because it might not be because people are bored of dinosaurs. It might be because people, you know, there's dinosaurs out there in the world. Like, why go to a museum when they're out there? Why would you do that? It's like, again, the complete opposite. It could be that. So just something for everyone to think about. Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. I'll leave you guys there. I don't know if I'll record another one before Rebirth comes out, but we'll see. But if I get the time, I will. If you've enjoyed this, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Jurassic stuff. And once Rebirth is out, I'm going to have a lot to say. And yeah, I am going to get on to doing some more obscure Jurassic Fact shorts. I know I've sort of put a pause on those at the moment, but I've actually got a day coming up set aside where I'm going to just record a bunch of narrations and then start pumping those out again. So be sure to look out for those. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later. Ta-ta!